Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all on behalf of CTBUH India. Before we proceed with our session, I am pleased to share some information on CTBUH in brief. The Council on Tall Building and Urban Habitat is the world's leading resource for professionals focused on the inception, design, construction and operations of the tall building and future cities. The council is headquartered in Chicago and was established in year 1959 and has a representation in over 40 countries including India. Council aims to provide guidance to the shapers of the urban landscape with the goal of enabling smarter, more sustainable cities and a more viable future for the global population. CTBUH is a non-profit organization that has developed the internationally accepted criteria for measuring the heights of tall buildings. The Council aims to encourage research, development and debate on the next generation of tall buildings and issues of urban habitat, and also acknowledges contribution of the architects and engineers on the CTBUH platform. CTBUH India was established in year 2014 to implement the aims and the objectives of CTBUH International in the Indian context. For more information on CTBUH, please visit www.ctbuh.org. In line with CTBUH mission, CTBUH India is connecting with its members and the other interested audience in these pandemic situations by bringing the stalwarts of the Indian construction industry to its platform. Their career development, passion and vision will be discovered in this series of interviews, which are brought to you by CTBUH India in association with iDAC. Let us now go straight to the interview session with architect Raja AEDERI, and making him speak about his thoughts on the various aspects will be architect Ashlesh Wazkar, who is past 24 years is associate architect, and second interviewer today is architect Ramandeep Singh, who has been working with him for past 10 years. So we very warm welcome to Raja sir and Ashlesh and Ramandeep. So over to you, Ashlesh. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Today we have with us someone who's not just a legend in the world of architecture, but is also known for his flamboyant style, trademark Italian silk shirts, a cigar dangling in his fingers, an extremely witty sense of humor. His glamorous and stylish persona reflects in all the iconic buildings he has designed over 6 decades. Architect Raja AEDERI will give us insights today about his life and experiences as an architect. Thank you so much, Mr. AEDERI, for joining us today, and apologize for the technical snag we had last time. We really appreciate it. And moderating this interview would be Architect Ashlesh Wazkar, Associate of Architect Raja AEDERI. Hi, Ashlesh.
Hi, Ramandeep. Thanks. I've been fortunate enough to be with this amazing person and learn from him for the past 24 years. It's my great honor to walk you all through his journey. Good evening, Mr. AEDERI.
Good evening.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to tell us about yourself. Mr. AEDERI, to start with, could you tell us something about your childhood, how were you as a child, your memories, and when you got inspired or influenced by architecture?
I was born in a place called Hospet, which is famous for Vijayanagaram Kingdom's structures. Besides that, when I was brought to Bombay, after 4 or 5 years, you realize that it was a terrible place we were living in. We were ruled by the British. When I became aware of it, then everything was rationed. You had to stand in queue. However, there was a bright spot of playing cricket. Regarding my school years, there were 2 darling teachers, Jaikar and Mr. Ezekiel. Jaika, I remember teaching her in English literature and English language. She quoted Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde has said that youth is wasted on the young. So I was pretty naughty, and I took full advantage. I think she liked me, Miss Jaika. So when was in higher standard, oh yes, another thing was in English, R is silent. So these two things stayed in my mind. And next standard, higher standard, when she was the teacher for the whole standard, she called out roll call first, even though she knew most of the students' names. And when my turn came, I said, my name is Ja. So she said, look here, don't start so early in the year, making fun. So I said, no, I'm not, because you mentioned the previous year that R is silent in English. So she laughed, of course. And then she said, born where? I said, hospital. Again, she got a little angry. So then I pointed out that she heard it wrong. It was the hospital, not hospital, I had said. Of course, I made it softer, her feelings, because she was being made a fool of in the class. So I said, I like your sari and that border, nice border, and all that. However, regarding Oscar Wilde's Wasted All Youth, I decided I would rather be senile in the early years of my life and tried to be youthful. And believe me, it has worked. I'm nearing, what, 90? And I'm still young at heart and still working, and I have all wits about me. That was the school years. Architecture, of course, my grandmother showed me photographs of Vijayanagar Kingdom, so that had some impression on me. And the second thing was, of course, I wanted to travel. I wanted to be abroad. I didn't want to be here where I'm being subjugated. You know, in the early years, when you are aware, you realize that Gandhi, Nehru, Patel, Sarojini Naidu, all of them were every few months trips into the jail. First, I thought maybe they were unhappy at home. Their wives were harassing. They seemed to be happy to go to jail. Later on, of course, had tremendous impression that these guys were sacrificing. I remember they took whole class, maybe 2-3 standards, and we lined up. They didn't tell us for what. We lined up along the Juhu Beach, a road leading to the beach. And we were talking, girls were giggling, and suddenly there was this old man who came, smiling. Of course, that was Mahatma Gandhi, and that is the greatest impression I had. A man full of love, humility, and such greatness. I had not encountered since then anyone like that. So that was my school years, yeah.
Okay, Mr. Reddy, could you tell us where did you hear about Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright, and how did you go there? How did you start your architecture college journey?
Well, you hear of Frank Lloyd Wright. I heard it in JJ. You know, there was at that time nobody had heard of Mies or Le Corbusier. At least I hadn't heard. You know. But besides that, architecture journey, of course, first I wanted to travel. Secondly, if you want to travel, what do you want to see? Basically, architectural buildings. I mean, monuments, pyramids, Temple of Konark, what else? Parthenon, St. Peter's, Pantheon, of course. So that's how I decided to be an architect, you know. But architect itself, I don't think you become an architect. You're born, in the sense that it's in the genes. If you don't become an architect, you'll be a musician or performing artist or sculptor, painter. It's architecture is 90% art and 10% perspiration. So for JJ, anyway, I won S-keys, they called it. I remember first and second or third year, or was it third, fourth, fifth year, two. Prabhat Patki, poor fellow died. He won in that higher, and I was in the lower, so I had won S-keys. So I badgered my father regularly to say I wanted to go abroad. I didn't know what kind of salary he earned. He couldn't afford, I'm sure, even though rupee was, 13 rupees to a pound, and dollar was 5 rupees to a, $1 was 5 rupees. Anyway, so after JJ, I went to England. That was sort of like a second home in a way, very much like Bombay of those days. There's those double-decker buses and similar ads behind the buses, Horlicks and things like that, Players, Please, cigarettes. So I felt at home. However, the curriculum, naturally, the curriculum at JJ was set by a British. It seemed similar, and there was hardly any excitement regarding architecture as such. We were measuring some old abbeys for no reason. So I sent my sketches to FLW, Frank Lloyd Wright, and to my amazement, he accepted me. I got a letter back in about 2 weeks. So I gave up Leeds and went to London those days. I think the embassy, consulate or embassy were both only in London. So I went there, and the man who interviewed me said, let me look in the book, find out what is this Taliesin. He said, sorry, there's no university or architectural college like that. You can't go to US. I was scared. I mean, I had given up JJ, I had given up Leeds. I mean, it was a shock. So I asked the commissioner, the fellow who opens the door, what's the shift? Is it the same gentleman who will be there tomorrow? So the man said, yes, but day after there'll be a change of shift. So day after I went there and showed my letter, Mr. Wright's inviting me. I remember the interviewer's name still, Killian, and he got up, shook my hands. I said, young man, you're the most fortunate chap to get an invitation like that. I was thrilled. That's how I got to USA and to FLW.
So how
shall I tell you? Sorry.
So Mr. Edri, how was the life at Taliesin campus? And Wright as your mentor. So
yeah. Well, there were 16 of us as apprentices and 8 seniors with their wives who stayed there for years on. 16 they were from real United Nations. There was from Egypt, China, England, Denmark, Ireland, Switzerland, Colombia, and the rest were Americans. And the curriculum as such was you learn by experience. Yeah, there I am. You learn by experience. So this is his grandson, Eric. This is Wesley Peters on the right there. He's a designer, structural engineer, and also later on he married Stalin's daughter, by the way. And this is Jack Howe. He used to do the perspectives and give me for finishing, putting on trees and things like that. This fellow is from Greece, John Amarintitis. It was a wonderful experience. The other students, my colleagues, apprentices, where of course they were going from well-known families. My good friend Oppenheimer, his father made the atom bomb, as you know, Robert Oppenheimer. Then there was David Dodge, who inherited Dodge car company. Then there was Koei Hoshijima, who he and I did the Japanese embassy in Delhi. Then there was a Marquis della Valva from Italy, and Don Giovanni del Drago, a sort of a prince from Italy. And they were all, it's funny enough, I expected these guys to be quite worldly, but they didn't have, of course, I didn't expect them to know much about India, but general knowledge as such, they were not that, well, they were quite below what I had expected. So even though we were subjugated and all, and our education and interest in politics, I was far more, little more knowledgeable than Americans. Of course, they thought nothing existed beyond America. But others, at least Egypt and Ireland and Denmark, I would have expected something to know a little more about India. And however, at Taliesin, of course, we did all the chores like cooking. When I was there, I was put in charge of coffee, tea time, make coffee and cakes and pies, which was easy. You know, if you read the Betty Crocker recipe book, it's easy to, and with slight intelligence, you can easily make cakes and all. Then there was breakfast cooking, where the chef was one, and we had two of us, we had to help in peeling potatoes and all that other things. Then the main chef for dinner was again different. Among the apprentices, that's it. Then we built our own theater, so we had to learn plastering and sawing of wood, and then made our own wines and sorghum and pickles and all kind of things, because this is in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is where there's a lot of lakes, greenery, soil, very rich soil, and I think the acreage was something like 500-600 acres, which is small compared to farmhouses in US. And we grew our food. Did everything ourselves, the whole thing was. And Mr. Wright had selected some cows, which goes with the landscape. They were Jersey, not the French one with black and white. These are brown and beige. And we used to sell the milk and cream and all, I suppose, to keep the place going. And by the way, the fees were, that time how much? $2,500 a year, which was what, maybe 11,000-12,000 rupees a year. Well, a lot of money for us, but it's very reasonable for somebody like a Dodge and Koyo Shijima and those markets. However, it's a terrific experience to do everything yourself, learn by experience. This is, oh yes, after Halloween, we would go to the west, Scottsdale, Arizona. There, of course, the desert. This is it. This is, that is the studio you saw. This is the pool. And these are the quarters for senior apprentices. With their wives, they would stay. In Taliesin West, of course, it was what they call $100 a day sunshine. All the health farms were there. Hollywood actresses would come there. I remember Marilyn Monroe came with Arthur Miller. She wanted a house designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. Then there was a great many people who made America, you could say. There were all captains of industry like McCormick. He invented, I mean, her father invented the harvester, which is that tractors and combine harvesters. Then Henry Luce with his wife Claire. He was the most influential man in America in those days. Was owner of Time, Life magazine, Fortune, and Architectural Forum. He was fairly regular at Taliesin West. Then writers, Bruce Barton, Alexander Woolcott. Then there, of course, there was no farming, so we were all sort of we were invited to parties. There were a lot of parties because there was nothing else in Scottsdale except to come and see Taliesin, which was amazing, the building. And being international students in those days, in early 50s, it was like some work of art sort of thing. I mean, the whole microcosm of United Nations. So we were invited to parties there. It's a glorious feeling, you know. You meet, people like Adlai Stevenson, who lost 2 elections to Eisenhower. Then he was governor of Illinois. He used to come. He came twice to Taliesin North. It's just amazing. And also to have terrific food, good company, traveling every 6 months, seeing practically all of America. Then Mr. Wright, of course. He was there, you can say, almost in my 4 years, he was there 4 days in a year, 4 days in a week, 3 days in a week, on an average. Almost 40% of the days here he went to give lectures. And that's a way of also making money. Poor fellow didn't have any interesting job, big projects, except that Guggenheim Museum, which he designed in 1942. I remember Harry Guggenheim, the son of Solomon, who had originally contributed, that's it, money to this museum. He came, and there was some problem with chief fire officer. I think some side open spaces maybe good, I didn't know. Some cost savings. So Mr. Wright worked all night, and I remember next morning he showed him. He was then 88 or 86, I think. amazing. And then we did the finishing of those drawings, and that's it. He was happy, and we went. He went back, and still something happened, I think. So the chief commissioner, Moses, his name, he called Mr. Wright. He said, Mr. Wright, the chief fire officer is still adamant. Will you come and convince him? So Mr. Wright went. There was one of the senior apprentices with him. He met CFO. From what I gathered from the apprentice, CFO said, those slit windows, they're too high. In case of fire, how can people come out of them? And it's also a 7-8 story building. So Mr. Wright told him, well, Hank or Joe, whatever his name was, look here, it's only ground floor. It's a ramp. You squeeze it, it becomes 1 floor. So he laughed and gave the approval. So then I realized that was the most important thing. It's no use just doing drawings and then it lies like a painting. You have to get approvals. So that is another impression on me.
Okay.
So every Sunday he would give us a lecture, and every time I remember drumming into us 4 things. One is, kingdom of God is within you. Democracy is the highest form of aristocracy. What is the reality of a glass? And 4th is, take care of the terminals. That's the rest can take care of itself. Now, kingdom of God means that you have a tremendous potential. And as an architect, the kingdom is within you, not with your client or your assistants. You have to produce something. That, I gather, is the meaning of, you shouldn't lose that kingdom of God, which is, of course, it's in the Bible. Then the second was, democracy is the highest form of aristocracy, which is correct if you go to America. Of course, forget the blacks, otherwise that's a different story. But otherwise, in America, everyone, I mean, Dodge, his brother, I think, or even he worked in the Dodge canteen, clearing up dishes and that kind of thing. So it's nothing. Every man is equal, really, in America, and especially in law. So that's the reason Mr. Wright said he did, because that is his first building, an important building on 5th Avenue in New York. So he wanted to show the American democracy. So the ramp, that's his explanation of Guggenheim Museum. And of course, is that it was meant, it's a sloping walls. It was like a painting looking at on an easel, artist's easel, which is not 90 degrees to the floor. So and it's for non-objective art. Floor is also a ramp singing. So in non-objective art, you don't have to have a square frame. It can be anything, like Kandinsky, Paul Klee, that kind of artist. So that is it, so very important. And third part, of course, the reality of the glass, which is the most important part of architecture. It's not the shape, it's not the material. Like if you tap it, it's stainless steel or brass or glass. The reality of the glass is glass is the idea that it can hold water. So the idea is the reality, and that's the most important thing. And 4th is, of course, purely in architectural terms, it's take care of the terminals, means I suppose, silhouette. You have the walls at the end, the roof. You have to take care of that. The blank walls and all, they can take care of themselves. That's an explanation. You know, as you know, Mr. Wright, especially in bungalows and all, he designed everything: carpets, curtains, furniture, the whole lot. So I remember we were invited in Talis in West, of course, to a party by Mr. Carlson, who was the editor of Arizona Highways. That's a fabulous magazine showing all cactus and all. Every month it comes, glorious in those days. Anyway, we went there. We had dinner and we came back. And it seems Mr. Wright wasn't happy with the layout of the furniture, and he got up middle of the night, took two apprentices, and went there and rearranged the furniture. And Carlson came out, and so he thought, "What's happening?" He said good night to Mr. Wright, and he is there. My God, he was fantastic in anything, whatever he did. He wanted to do it thoroughly. I remember once he brought two apprentices carrying books. He came and gave us each a book. It was William Blake, a poetry, English poet. Now imagine, at the age of 68, he has discovered a poet. Of course, he read to us from Walt Whitman, Emerson. In fact, he used to say, read Emerson. Everything in architecture is there. That's too philosophical, of course. It was amazing. Henry Louis, all these great men. Oh yes, one picnic. It was Christmas dinner. We went to Oak Creek Canyon. We took all the turkey and cranberry sauce, the whole lot, and went there and campfire. It's a small canyon, Oak Creek, beautiful. And we had a guest, his granddaughter, Anne Baxter. She got Academy Award, I remember, for All About Eve. She and Charles Lawton, famous English actor. It seems three of them, including Raymond Massey, were doing that show of reading Shakespeare and Bible on Broadway. It ran for 2 years, so it must have been terrific, and it was terrific. And two of them, they read to us the excerpts. So I realized, I was really blessed. This sort of thing you can't get even in White House, I think, because these are all unusual things, and done by very talented people. It's the whole thing was sophisticated, intelligent, surroundings. My God, it's unbelievable. Good food. We had caviar. We used to have caviar. We used to have blinis, and I don't know how Mr. Wright could afford it, $2,500 a year. It was a marvelous experience. Finally, we used to give, by the way, a present to him, which was, of course, our project. It is called Birthday Box, and which was in June, and Christmas Box, because June was in Wisconsin. This Christmas was, of course, Arizona, Scottsdale. It was quite a thing, and he would analyze our drawings and criticize or praise, and it was a great experience, the things we didn't see, he saw in the concept. The construction of Taliesin West was also amazing. As he showed in the photograph, it was shuttering. Then we used to get these stones lying around, and you turn them. They were all black on the top for million years being sun-scorched, and underneath they were red, green, orange. It was amazing. So we put the orange part, tie them to the shuttering inside, and pour white concrete, and then remove it, and you saw that it's just amazing. And the canvas roof, and that swimming pool pointing towards Scottsdale. So at night it looked like a ship going towards, the lights were 30 miles away, Scottsdale lights. I think it's one of the great buildings. I think it's along with Falling Waters and his Oak Park buildings, it's considered national, something they call them, preserve. They have to preserve these. Or the local government spends money on preserving.
So
yeah.
You have much more memories to share with. We would like
after
Mr. Wright's fellowship program, you joined any other AEDERI in the US, or?
Yeah. I wanted to learn about how Americans treat their clients, or what kind of practice they have. So I chose one smaller. Being from Taliesin, you're invited everywhere, by the way. As I said, we're like a Chinese vase, maybe. I'll point out he's from FLW and that kind of thing. Of course, we were no good at anything, the way practice was being run, unless you are on your own. We didn't know municipal rules, nothing. However, but in America in those days anyway, you either became part of the design or job captain. Job captain meant he took over the drawings, coordinated with the consultants, and looked after the project. A design team we were designing only, but then we had to know the rules. However, anyway, I joined a firm called Eric Froning. He was he had done most of the race courses in America, it seemed. And that time he had a very big project, Hippodromo Nacional in Caracas, Venezuela. So I was working on that. It was a small team. There were two. When I entered, the secretary was gorgeous. Used to wear tight yellow sweater, I'll come to that. And being Hollywood, naturally. And there were two cabins. One was Eric Froelic's, and the other one was, I don't know, a gentleman, handsome fellow, used to wear dark glasses even inside. So I asked my superior, who is this guy? So he said, is he an architect? He said, no, he's nothing. He said, he's one who goes and gets projects, entertains mayors' wives or millionaires' wives who are in racing, and he gets the projects for Eric Froelich. And Eric Froelich also, being race courses and all that, it's a very English tradition. So in that, all that heat, he was being English, wearing Harris Tweed, heavy jackets, pipe, trying to get an English accent. So it was an experience. And after that, I met somebody in, I used to go have a good time, naturally, in Los Angeles, means nightclubs, Macambo and all this. Used to go, and I met a gentleman. He had two girls with him, and I used to play maracas with the band. As I remember Villa Fraschetti, that was called. And this gentleman, I joined him. He said, "Where are you? Are you Brazilian?" It's a Brazilian band. I said, "No, I'm from India." architect, FNW. FNW, his lights, eyes lit up. He said, I'm Dan Morganelli, I'm partner of Belton Beckett. Would you like to go to London? You know, being from India, you can walk in any time there. I said, yes, and that's how I went to London, worked on the Hilton, finally came to India.
Okay. So this was the project you worked on.
Yeah,
Park?
yeah, that's it, Park Lane, Hilton.
Okay. So when did you decide to move back to India and you started your own here? So which was your first project?
The whole thing was I had to come to India because I couldn't get a license. You know, Frank Lloyd Wright thing doesn't teach you to appear for exams. It gives you confidence. It gives you think differently. It gives you so many things, but not that scholastic. So if I had to have a license in London, then RIBA. That means again studying 4 years. So that's how the reason. Otherwise, I was getting a good salary and enjoying my life. But because of this, I came back to India. Yeah, my first project was, of course, this again to do with Marilyn Monroe. Vijay Chawla, he was interested in architecture. I told him about Marilyn came, and Mr. Wright was doing the house for Marilyn, and then of course they divorced, and the project didn't materialize. So his sister was that time, she used to write for Filmfare, Devyani Chawla. So she heard about this, and she told Joyce Pereira, another resource owner. So Joyce Pereira met me and said, I got a piece of land in Uran. And that was my first project, which I did as a hyperbolic paraboloid, yes, asymmetrical. And this is it. Mahendra Raj was a designer, brilliant engineer. He did the roof, which, as you know, the beams are on the edges, and the slab itself is hardly 3.5 inches.
Which year?
This was 65, 66. Yeah. Finished in, it took a little more time because of monsoon. There was no work. The only access was Nala. And then there was some mistake in, they didn't leave spaces. So the steel came down when concrete was poured. So we had to granite it. And there was only one firm, John Fleming, I remember, Englishman, Harris, who did graniting work. So it took time. So I think about 68 or so, it got finished. Then, of course, my good break came with Meridian, Charanjit Singh. Sardars have been always my guiding spirit in my career. So Charanjit Singh gave me that opportunity, and he said, give me the best. I know you may not have done hotels, except that you worked on the Hilton, but find out whatever is latest and give me the best. So I remember the Meridian was the first hotel. I introduced air conditioning even for staff rooms, kitchen. That time only fresh air was being used in all the hotels, Oberoi, Taj, and name it. Mine was the only one. And secondly, I introduced 6-pipe system of air conditioning. Normally in winter in Delhi up north, same pipes carry hot water. So you don't get air conditioning in that time. You get air conditioning, but in a hotter. Especially, you know, in public areas, when people are wearing suits, and suddenly, as you know, sometimes it gets hot for banquets and all that. So I had this 6-pipe systems, different air conditioning for public areas. It was expensive, but I think that's the true 5-star thing, not marble and gold and all that. The services are the most important. And then, of course, I went wild. I did a restaurant in that lobby I have an atrium 220 feet high. I welded the restaurant to the trusses, approached by 4 bridges. Kamal Harka was the engineer. He thought I was mad, but poor fellow did it. He's also excellent. He, Mahendra Raj, and Shirish Patel, I would name them 3 terrific engineers. So we got it done. The Sardars were also builders. They were Jarnail Singh, I still remember his name, and his younger brother. They were hanging like monkeys from the truss and welding. It was amazing. You approach by 4 bridges. There's nothing, you can't do scaffolding 220 feet high. And it was marvelous. No, I think it's only one, for the simple reason nowhere in the world they'll give permission to have a public space suspended. So it's still, I'm sure, the only restaurant suspended in the lobby. Then, because of that, Rajiv Gandhi liked it, and he invited, of course, he had to have competition because it's a Congress party, public party. So there was competition, and then I designed this Jawahar Bhavan, it was called, and it's a blank wall. This is a triangular building with triangular courtyard and offices all around. Then the access corridor to the offices, then gap, then this blank wall. And Congress party being one of the oldest parties in the world, along with Labour Party and older than Communist Party. I think it was older as Democratic Party. So I said there's a history. So on the blank wall, the history of Congress, the sacrifices made by Gandhi, Nehru, Sarojini Naidu, Acharya Kirpal, all lot of them. So that's meant to be. And of course, Hussein did one wall in his painting, and then there's the skylight. It's my favorite building anyway. And there's long steps. Raju said to use this place for when he talks to party workers instead of going to the boat club, which is on the Rajpath. So I had these long steps, and like any public building, as you see all over the world, we have steps leading to the entry into the building. Below that, of course, basement or whatever it is. And so Rajiv said, Raja, this you got blank walls like Fort Knox, somebody tells me. So I told him, sir, Fort Knox has windows. It's a classical building. Fort Knox has windows. If anybody does a building without windows, I want them to say it looks like Jawahar Bhavan. Murli and Manu Patel, who were looking after the project, they were a little annoyed talking to Prime Minister like that. I said, anyway, there was nothing. As you see, there's only one bowl. I have 2 bowls one having charka, one having rose, rose bushes, where Jawahar used to have a rose in his lapel. So one day he came to the site, only one bowl was done. So Rajesh said, this looks like, why are you fond of these bowls? It looks like 1942 Hollywood. So they were all looking at me, what I would say. I said, sir, that was the best year of Hollywood. And then I said, the bowl is, if you stand on Rajpath, there are two bowls, fountains, by legends, looking at Rashtrapati Bhavan. So it sort of echoing that time. It was near the Parliament, Jawahar Bhavan. So I said it, some feature I have to, otherwise it's a modern building. Then with that, then there were a lot of competitions. I won. One was IFCI, TAR. Delhi has a very funny things like what they call, it's an act of parliament, by the way. They harass you. We architects are jealous of each other. We don't want a good building to come. This is IFCI. It's the whole layout was done by Charles Correa, and the shape is given, I mean plinth is given, and height is given, and you have to manage in that. So I told them, Jawahar Bhavan, with Sam Pitroda and Prabhudev, the electronic commissioner, I said we were doing a first intelligent building in India, but Raju, died last year. That was 91, and we couldn't do it, but we did the wiring. So they liked it, and then I gave them some things like it was a national competition. There were 6 architects from Bombay and a couple from Madras, Delhi, and Calcutta, and we had to give some sketches. So I said, with the limited height and limited floor space, if you use international standards like vertical transportation, there'll be hardly any room for offices, so office space. So I said, I will use 3 lifts less, but I will have them stopping at, say, first floor, then not on second, and not on third, but on in between second and third. That's similar like that. Then goes on the fourth, then in between 5 and 6. So that way you go down a little, go up a little, and also the floor and made in such a way that you saw at a distance that Baha'i temple. So even on lift lobby, you can see Baha'i temple. That was it. So I won that competition on that basis. Then there was Vigyan Bhavan also, and which was it was catching fire all the time. All the time they were doing was removing the paneling and putting wooden paneling. So here I removed the whole building where fire took place. It's an AC plant that is inside and made into anyway, the whole thing was neither what do you call it, for conference, not good enough for Bharatanatyam performance, not good enough for, they used to use it as a movie theatre for MPs. So I convinced Holmes, urban sector minister at that time, Sheila Kaul, I said, decide on, if it's conference, then I have to remove everything, floor, you need desks, you need participants, you don't need proscenium arch, you need stage part of the sitting area. So she agreed, and then escalators, not lifts. I did some escalators only going up, coming down staircases that look like escalators. You're economizing and everything those days. That's it. Then I have tried. But in Bombay, of course, then ICICI. Yeah. Here also, the competition was ICICI building. There I was a little pushy because I was late. I heard about this. So I rang chairman, secretary. I said, I just finished ICICI building, IFCI, and Mr. Daur, chairman, said I should talk to Mr. Wagul. She put me on to Wagul. She heard Daur. She didn't hear my name. And I mentioned to say, I've done the first intelligent building. I hear you're having a competition. Let me. He said, you may be late, but okay, I'll tell them to hold on, give you 2 weeks. So then I produced this. I said I was going to make fast. So have steel structure, which steel structure was, well, 80% steel I had done in IFCI. That is the first. And this is 100% steel, ICICI. Again, Kamal Hadkar is my engineer, consultant. And we got steel from Belgium, I think, trade outlet. And we got that pineapple, half watermelon or pineapple, you can say, is the boardroom and connection between the two towers. That I made it straight earlier in the competition. Sorry, I'm putting on the earphone. Somebody said it looks like moon. That's the end of it. That means Pakistan. Anything to it. So I made it straight. I didn't show them. And finally, the drawings were given to L&T to fabricate the this shape. Then it was too late for anyone to say. Some things you have to keep away from client, you know. As you know, in my office, I have a lip sofa. Lip sofa, I tell my clients that I give lip service to their wants. I give them what they should have. Of course, in a humorous manner, not in an insulting way. And that's it. So there it is, lip sofa. That was first done by Salvador Dali. Anyway, the next competition I won in Bombay was at Powai. This is the original owner of Powai, who owned 5,000 acres, the whole of Powai, including the lake. Finally, he sold it to different builders. He had left with some no development zone property. And the rules there are that you can build 15% of the area as plinth. So I made these stars, 6 stars. So I was losing less than 15%. And we argued with the commissioner and said the whole idea of no development zone is that it should have greenery, pristine atmosphere, so neighbors can look at it. The building is minimum 0.2% of the FSI. So why don't you let me have gaps where I'll do a lot of greenery and you can see the mountain and all that. And this, he agreed and he gave. And as you know, this I learned, as I said, Mr. Wright convincing Chief Fire Officer Guggenheim. From what I understand, I think I'm one of the few or the only one architect who designs as well as gets the approval from VMC, which others consider below their dignity or they don't want to get their hands soiled. But then you don't get approvals like this. Yeah. When 100 square foot balcony is not allowed, and I've got 2 lakh square feet in 5 lakh square feet building. So this is it. If you go and convince the authorities your intention, they're all engineers, Commissioner Mr. Pathak, I think, was amazing. IAS officers, but artistic mind also, that's it. So it's very important to get your own approvals. So nobody can say you're promising something and you're not getting it, So I won the competition on that basis, that I'm using 6%. And it was international architects, by the way. The only 3 of us were called, because Morgan Stanley was investing. It was Lohan, grandson of Mies van der Rohe. He's done 2 buildings in Bombay. One is Grand Hyatt and Four Seasons and Worley. And another one was Australian, Spencer. I had not heard of him. But Morgan Stanley wanted some foreign architects also. So I won that competition. It's a great thing to, if client appreciates. Of course, there are times when the client, I remember Green Lace Bank in Flora Fountain. There are 2-3 structures separately, and he wanted an extension, so I managed that by removing part of the atrium and bringing beams from the roof to make a floor, and then added something on the top, and it was leaking. And I told them, this is all leaking is something where architect is blamed, naturally, being a man in charge, but something beyond one can do with the contractors and the workmanship that's involved, plus materials. I told them, even World Trade Center, there's a hotel which used to be Hilton. They have a fountain there, and it was leaking throughout. It was done by Skidmore and Merrill, and this is New York. Anyway, so they used to ring me, especially his wife, Zoe Warner. She used to ring me. What kind of architect you? Finally, I got fed up. I sent a telex saying, "Madam, this building is a work of art and shouldn't be left out in the rain." So anyway, her husband laughed, and that was it. I said, I'll call the gentleman to do it again. That's
okay. What would you give some advice to the current and the young architects?
Young architects. One is what Mr. Wright taught us, of course, those 4 things. And also his famous phrase that architect, unlike doctor, cannot bear his mistakes. So it stands there forever, until, of course, new development, but still forever for us. And we should be careful in doing something. Put your heart and soul into it. And that's... and of course, most important is read books, which again, of course, even before FLW, we used to read books. Thank God there was no television, not even good radio, only cricket matches, commentary. So I was reading books. You should read, I would suggest, even Bill Gates suggested this Noah Hariri, Homo sapiens, Homo Deus. Read these books, Richard Dawkins, God Delusion. And also have a sense of humor. I can tell you, on my own case, I was called to give a lifetime award to a friend of mine. And they told me, just give the award. And when I was on the stage, they said, give us a speech. So I said, well, I didn't know about the speech part, but I was wondering, why did you call me? Why did you? Because I haven't, that's before I won that AI gold medal, Barbara Mate. I hadn't won any award. Why do you call me to give an award to somebody who has done, according to you, more work? And so the only solace I can take is, it says in the Bible that blessed are those who giveth, not who receiveth. Nobody laughed. But somebody heard about this, I think, because next year, some construction magazine, they announced 10 top architects. I didn't know what it meant. 10 top architects of India. I was one of them. Was it for design? Was it for fees? Was it for telling jokes? Or is it for something good body? So twice I got, third time I got for, I said, it's high time when I received the trophy. I said, I think it's the high time you should give to 10 topless architects. So I just top. Believe me, nobody laughed. All the builders were there, architects were there. This is it. We don't have a sense of humor.
Okay.
So develop a sense of humor. Develop a sense of humor, and well, do anything now. I mean, there's no, don't be restricted by set square and T square. Now, of course, computers, even computer is more confined. Do anything. Anything can be built these days. The steel can be bent. You saw Frank Gehry doing it, or Zaha Hadid doing it. Anything can be done. So be imaginative, have a sense of humor, enjoy life, yes, cigars if you can afford, Cuban, drinks, caviar, anything, good things. You'll learn something from them, how it's made, how it's... Keep your eyes open and read books. That's the most important. Without that, your knowledge is confined. I was just saying about, other countries build museums. Japan has built so many museums, even their prefecture, what they call district, 2-3 museums done by Tadao Ando, that Hiro Kurosawa, Kenzo Tange, famous, small vegetable museum, the children's museum, all that. And here we build statues. So I have a good suggestion of building statues. Sardar Patel statue is 1 foot higher than Statue of Liberty. I think Shivaji will be 1 foot higher than Sardar Patel. I suggest Tamil Nadu, because Tiruvalluvar is not being honored enough. His statue should be 1 foot higher than Shivaji. Then, of course, Mamata Banerjee should do Subhash Chandra Bose, they all talk about it. Nothing is done except in name some street. He should be 1 foot higher than Tiruvarava. And finally, now all the world leaders, religious leaders, Pope and the Grand Mufti of Mecca, he's saying religiously follow S.D. Singh. And so Punjab should build 10 foot higher than statue of S.D. Singh. Then we would have made great contribution to world of architecture, and okay,
Yeah.
we would have made a real mark on history of architecture, history of humanity. What greater thing than builders of statues?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Adri.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Adri. Thank you very much for your time and sharing all these wonderful stories with us. You are and shall always continue to be an inspiration to all of us. Thank you.